So
All right.
yes, it was fun. It was really fun, but I was tired.
And does this kind of take the place of what is or should be in public schools as far as that kind of education?
Well, I think so. This is the Unitarian Universalist curriculum, and it's also co-written by the United Church of Christ. And so we have this big old curriculum for the lifelong. And this was for 7th and 8th graders. Hi, Ananda.
Hello,
Ananda.
how are y'all?
Hey, we're
I'm
good.
Good, thanks. Thanks for joining us.
So happy you're here.
Absolutely. Thanks for inviting me.
So do you know Pedro Lira by any chance?
I don't.
Oh, okay. Pedro used to be the Indivisible organizer for 4 or 5 states. Oh, Deborah Bond. Yeah, baby. Anyway, he was so he had New Mexico, he had Arkansas, he had Colorado, and he had Texas, I think, and maybe one other one. And anyway, it was through Pedro that in New Mexico, we developed this New Mexico Indivisible Congress,
Wow.
which took quite a bit of doing to create, but it's still going. You know, we started it in the 2017, 2018, and it's still happening, and they have their monthly meetings and they do stuff together. So anyway, he was the one who really was pushing us to do that. But anyway, he's now the Texas campaigns manager for Working Families Party. So he's going to come in a couple of weeks and talk to us. And I've talked to Pedro, but I haven't seen him in ages. So anyway, we're looking forward to seeing him again. Okay, well, look, Shirley, look, can you see it?
What is it?
It's a necklace.
Uh-huh.
I sent her that poster of the Emancipation Proclamation and the warrior bracelet. So she sent me this necklace.
Oh, nice.
Anyway, yoo-hoo, Shirley, what's up?
I'm here. I'm
Okay.
here. That's handmade by guys in prison.
Oh no, I'm so sorry
And
to hear that.
they sell them at certain convenience stores, but you can't get them at all of them. Just the ones that support the prison ministry.
Mm.
You know, and so they make them all from hand. And you notice that what it's made out of is the real stones. Everything's real.
No, it's very pretty.
They make it to where you have to twist it on because they don't want them to have anything that's sharp.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
know.
So does anybody need the agenda? I can put it in the chat.
Yeah, I can do it. We could do it.
Okay, I'll put it in the
Oops.
chat.
Sorry.
Okay, you said. Okay. I see. Okay, there we go. Boop, boop. All right, there's the agenda. Shall we get started? I think we've got 7 people. Wow. Okay.
Good. That's all good.
All right, I'll share my screen, I guess. All right. Okay, so I originally scheduled an hour and a half for this meeting, but I don't think we're going to need that much time because the only thing we're really doing is communicating with Ananda today. We have a short. Does anybody want to share their deepest thoughts before we start? Anybody want to talk about Ukraine or? Yes, Jan.
I just wanted to say if President Zelensky can stand up for democracy, then so can we.
Yes, absolutely.
Here. Yes.
Anybody else? Anybody else?
I just want to get rid of Greg Abbott.
Oh, gee,
It's essential.
Maybe when he's done winning the war, we could invite President Zelensky over to Austin.
Well, I was thinking, I saw on Facebook that there's some distillery, some beer brewery over there that is using their supplies to make Molotov cocktails. And I was thinking maybe they should sell them here. They should do a fundraiser for Ukraine by selling the Molotov. I'd buy a bunch. I mean, they don't have gasoline in them, but I'd buy a bunch.
I think we just need to fund them. Funding, no shipping.
anybody else have anything going on in their life that's shareable that they want to say? No? Okay.
Terrible.
We're not usually this silly, Ananda.
No, I like it.
All right. So let me just go through some of the stuff we've been working on, although I think everybody that, except for Ananda that's in here, knows all this stuff, but what the hell. So we are making progress on delivering our first Indivisible newsletter. Christina Way has volunteered to be our newsletter editor, and the Lord High maintainer of our contact database, which has been a mess for years. We have an event and we've got a list, and we've got another event and we've got another list. So she's doing a really good job on taking care of that. We are gonna subscribe to Constant Contact. It's not cheap, but I was able to we got a discount, and it's like $170 a year or something. So at some point we're going to need to do some fundraising for specific things that we need money for, so we don't go through all the money that we have in the treasury. Not that it's like a shit pot full of money, but it is $3,600 that we have, which is great. But that can go pretty quickly. So we're spending money on infrastructure pretty much. And I think I'm the treasurer. I wouldn't mind if somebody wanted to take that over from me. But I have never really given any kind of financial report for us because we really don't spend that much money. But Jan gave me a template a while back, and maybe I'll start using it so that we can tell everybody what's been going on with our finances. Not much, but anyway, it's a function that we should probably take a little more seriously. The other thing is we did reserve the family pavilion, the place where we had our holiday party at the Mission County Park, and that's for April 30th. We're hoping to have a community outreach event that includes basically Black Lives Matter type groups, as well as and San Antonio NGOs to explore collaboration opportunities. And this is meeting up with Ananda is part of that plan. So we're hoping that we can find ways to help each other. Indivisible awarded us again like phase 3 of the GROW grant. Don't mess with Texas voters. They gave us $8,000 this time, which is twice as much as last time. And their Indivisible National is very keen on this Texas tour thing. They want to see how it works, and they're funding it so that they can see if this is something that might want to be done in other states. So for the next tour go around, stops are planned for Galveston and Laredo. And I don't want to talk about it right now. We did kind of sign up to do a Texas tour, but we haven't. We have so much other work to do that that is more important for our growth and for our goals, that we may not be able to do anything this year. We'll have to see if we can manage it. but we're not leaning towards doing the tour, but we'll see.
Have you talked again with Alexandra and Ed about the
No, I
idea?
haven't. I've been just waiting to tell them that we don't want to do it. So and Jan and I have talked about maybe the language we can use for that, but I don't know whether to call Alex and just tell him personally, or whether I should just send him an email, which is kind of impersonal. So we can talk about that. I'm hoping that for our office hours on Monday, that maybe Jan and Peter and I, if you're available, we can talk a little bit more about our event on April 30th and who else we might want to contact, and decide who's going to make that contact. So if you're available at 1 or 2 o'clock on Monday, we can talk about that for a while. What do you think?
Have you talked to Ananda about this? Have you invited her formally? Have you told her what this is?
No, I think we did mention it, but we haven't talked to her. So that'll be part of the conversation tonight, I guess. The other thing is Indivisible National sent us a questionnaire asking that we have our members fill it out. And basically, Indivisible I wouldn't say they've been struggling, but they have been really, they really were very, very discouraged that we couldn't get any voter suppression legislation passed in the Congress. And the other Build Back Better fell off the wayside as well. So they've decided that they have a new campaign called Let's Go Joe, and they're asking Biden to get things done through executive orders, because there's a lot that he can do through that mechanism. So they're asking us to fill out the survey so that they know where Indivisible members are, how they're feeling about what Biden should be focused on. So that's all we have. So next up is Ananda Sunshine Thomas.
Why don't we go around the room and introduce ourselves, because Ananda doesn't know any of us but me.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll work.
All right.
So
Siri.
Jane, can you get rid of the screen so we can all see each other?
If you give me $1, sure. Okay.
You just have my lovely company to bear with instead of a book.
Okay. All right. Let's start with Shirley. Shirley, this is Ananda. This is Shirley.
How you doing,
Shirley,
Amanda?
tell Ananda a little bit about yourself.
Who do you think you
Well,
are?
Amanda, I am Black Lives Matter, New Braunfels, Texas. We're a small town with more blacks than you see. Most people come through this town and they go, "Where's the black people?" That's how scarce they are of being seen around here. But I'm trying to get more interest in Black Lives Matter here in this town. But this is a basically red county, and it's a lot of resistance, and I think that basically the people are really afraid, of getting involved because all the bad publicity about Black Lives Matter and that they're a terrorist group. And, a lot of the Republicans really believe that, although I know that's false, but the thing is, I have a slogan that says all lives cannot and will not matter until Black Lives Matter. So I'm going to fight for that with just me or whoever, wants to join up. I will tackle this alone if I have to. And I will go to the streets with it, go to the news, whatever, because I'm old school, so I know how to get up and knock on some doors and say, hey, here I am. Accept me or reject me, but you can't eat me. So, come burn across in my yard, and we'll see what that gets you. You know, I'm opening my whole front yard to cross burning. Come on. Because
love
I
it.
want to know who you are. And see, if you come burn across in my yard, you can't do it with mask on. Can't do it with no hood. I want you to
Right.
take them hoods off so I can know who you are. You know, so I'm just up close and personal like that. That's just Shirley. But all right, bye-bye, y'all.
Okay,
Meeting you.
That's
okay.
why we love her.
Yes.
Eva, you want to go next?
Yeah, I'm here. I met Ananda at like I think it was Anthony Cruz's birthday party or something. So yeah, I'm a physician here in town. I've been here since medical school, so I've been here for 11 years now.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember where we met. It's been a minute, and it's
I
been
think
a
it
long
was through
time
Anthony
since-
Cruz.
Yeah, I'm thinking so too.
But I've been around for a while, so I've helped be involved in Indivisible since it was started back in since probably around January 2017 is when I kicked in, and then yeah, just do a bunch of stuff.
Great. Siri, you want to go?
Sure. So I have also been with Indivisible since January 2017. A lot more active back then. Right now, I've been busy with a, I don't know if you guys can
Here she comes.
see.
Oh, she passed out.
She passed out. I
That's
have
super.
11-month-old baby. She keeps me super busy and I'm exhausted all the time. And I have a very demanding full-time job. But I still try to do the best that I can. But I'm really grateful for all of you guys, you know, doing what you do, and I can contribute when I'm able to contribute. So that's about me. Anything else you want to know about?
Are you in San Antonio or?
Yes, San Antonio, North Side, Chavano area.
Okay, nice.
And I work here very close by also. I work in technology.
Awesome. Very nice meeting you.
Jan,
Hi, I'm Jan Riolini, and I'm a retired family doctor who was working for a long time in public health, in family planning and teen pregnancy prevention. And I retired in January of 2021. That was when it was complete. So it's like 1 year and I'm as busy as I ever was, I think. I've found Indivisible later than most of the other folks here because I was looking for some way with my now more time on my hands to really make a difference, because in terms of how people understand what's going on politically in the world and what issues are maybe going to impact them, whether they have understood that yet or not. I just feel like education and voter engagement and inspiration is what we need to do. And there's so many issues. And I mean, racial justice is like #1 on that list. Climate change is #1 on that list. So many #1s on that list. And how can we do anything unless we turn things around from what is happening with the Republicans being authoritarian prone? So, so that's kind of where I'm coming from. I'm also a member of the First Unitarian Universalist Church here in San Antonio, and on the social justice team there. And I'm on the board of the Texas UU Justice Ministry, which is trying to help coordinate and amplify what's going on in the different congregations around Texas. And so there's a lot of things going on that I think we could, you know, get SATX the emails to amplify. And so I think it's like a, what do they call it? Synergy, to have input from both sides. And so that's where I'm coming from. And I'll just say that Jane has been the person who's really been pulling the wagon primarily, and the rest of us are helping out a little bit. Some of us are cracking the whip and everything like that. Not really, but you know, encouraging her to keep going. She's done a fantastic job, and we have a lot of talent here. And I guess how I see it is that we can help connect different groups who are working on different things together to collaborate and help other people. And hopefully we'll be able to figure out ways to do that with your group.
Yes, definitely. Jen, I don't know if I told you this last time we spoke, but Dorothy Wallace is actually on the board of ACT4SA.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I saw her today. Yeah, she's amazing.
Yes, she
She's
really is
amazing. She's like
very great.
going all the time.
Perfect.
Okay, Peter, you want to go?
Sure. Hey, Ananda. So I'm the token old white guy on the group, as you can probably tell. But my specialty is climate. I'm a climate reality project person, and I've been doing environmentalism for, that was my professional when I did that. And right now I'm really trying to juggle, like we all are, right? I mean, the needs of democracy and the needs to tackle climate change effectively are just the ones that are gnawing at my backside the hardest. So I'm working on them. But, you know, it's like everybody else. There's just so much to be done that it's a good trick. And there's a lot that goes on in Texas with the climate. I've been working with a coastal group, and they are up to their knees in alligators because of the industrialization that's going on up and down the Texas coast. And now with Ukraine, we've got the Russian gas pipeline to Germany, Nord Stream 2, that's been closed down, and Texas is going, oh boy, we can sell more gas, which is, to me, part of the nightmare. So that's, welcome to my world. Glad to see you, glad you could join us.
Okay, I guess it's my turn. I moved to San Antonio in late 2019. I knew nothing about Texas politics. Now I know sort of a bunch of stuff about Texas politics, and of all the things that that drew us to this area, it was not Texas politics. And I didn't even consider, you know, when we moved, that it was going to impact our lives as much as it has. But I've been in Indivisible since you know, January 2017, but I started a group in New Mexico. So I've been you know, doing this for a while. I had absolutely no activism experience or desire to do it until Trump came on the scene. And I just, you know, when 9/11 happened, all I wanted to do was, you know, learn Arabic and join the CIA, which I did not do. But so I did nothing, right? And then when Trump was elected, for some reason, I had exactly the same feeling about his election as I did, you know, all the traumas that dealt with, you know, the World Trade Center. And I was living in New Jersey at the time, and had grown, I grew up in the Bronx, so I'm a New Yorker. And so I've just been, you know, trying to learn how to be an activist, you know, and in this 4 or 5 year period. So that's my story. And as far as Indivisible, SATX Indivisible goes, when I joined, I guess it must have been December of 2019. I can't remember, maybe it was January. The group had kind of slowed down a bit. They got, I've told, people have told me stories, about the group before I arrived, and it was burned out. People had, really worked extremely hard in the 2018 elections, and so we kind of chilled for a while. And now I think we have a really great leadership team with Jan and Siri. Everybody's got, each of us have our strengths and weaknesses, mostly strengths though. And we all contribute to in the ways that our brains allow and our time allow us to. So that's our story. We have a lot more to tell, but I want to hear your story.
Well, it's really nice to virtually meet all of y'all. I mean, I've met a few of y'all in person, and thank you for having me in this space. I guess just to kind of give my story of self and introduction. So I'm Ananda Tomas, pronouns she, hers. I am the I'm the founder and executive director of ACT4SA, and I was previously the deputy director of Fix SAPD, who led the Prop B ballot initiative here. And where I actually started being involved in activism was back in 2014. I joined a program called Change Corps, and it was a year-long program similar to Green Corps, Peace Corps, or any of those, but specifically in grassroots organizing. And it was a mix of both working in the field as well as classroom training. And that's really where I learned that this was my niche. This is where I wanted to work, was in grassroots advocacy and organizing. I also won my first 2 campaigns, so I actually tasted success before defeat, which probably kept me in there too, because I understood what that meant. But my organizing under Change Corps was mostly with Moms Demand Action in Every Town for Gun Safety. We fought the campus carry bill in Nevada and won successfully at that. And then I also worked to elect a state senator who has been a decisive vote for several gun safety initiatives. Let's see, from there, there was some time in between. I came to San Antonio in 2015, worked on the Bernie 2016 campaign as the regional field coordinator. Started with San Antonio, but eventually stretched to 30 counties all the way to Victoria, to Kerrville, San Antonio, Corpus Christi, San Marcos. Went to grad school after that for my master's in political science. I worked on some local city council races, but mostly took a break from politics, which I think was good. I needed some time to focus on my studies. But when the uprisings happened after the deaths of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, I feel like the stars almost aligned perfectly. Not only had I been laid off from my job due to COVID, but I just graduated with my master's. And so I was free from school, free from work, and able to join the protests and the uprisings and the marches downtown. And I had never seen San Antonio turn out the way that they did during that entire summer. And not just San Antonio, but areas like Castle Hills and Alamo Heights, right? These areas that you wouldn't expect it. And I felt energized in a way that I hadn't felt in a long time. So for me, Black Lives Matter, the movement for Black Lives, right? All these protests, this is the next leg of the civil rights movement for me. And that's absolutely what I agree. And frankly, I was going to be damned if I wasn't going to be a part of it. Not just to honor my ancestors and the work that they have done and our constant struggle, but for our future generations, for my nephews, right? Too. It was something, I don't really know exactly how to explain it, but it was a calling like I've never had before. And it was amazing. And I ran into the Fix SAPD crew and joined them. And, the whole idea was to take protest to policy. Yes, we're in the streets, we're angry, we're protesting, but what can we work on to actually get those policy changes or to take on the police union and their contract? And it made sense. This was the Proposition B ballot initiative was a way to directly disempower the police union and get a contract that is accountable, that the people can have a say in, that can no longer, right, set up a runway to let in so many bad officers. And it was completely citizen driven on top of that. We didn't have to wait on a city council or the right governor or the right county commissioner. We just had to go out and collect petition signatures, put it on the ballot, and then speak to folks about the issue. And the community was able to decide, which was frankly badass, like so cool. I love it. So, you know, I learned a lot during that, but during the Proposition B ballot initiative, which actually I should stop for a second. Is everybody familiar with that, or would you like me to walk through the ballot initiative itself?
I think it might be
Um,
good to remind us about which state law it addressed and why.
Yes. So originally, the goal was to put 2 state laws, local government chapters on the ballot. Chapter 143, which is municipal civil service. It's also known as an officer bill of rights. So it lays out a lot about disciplining officers, right? So it goes further than that, but it does include an officer bill of rights in there that puts limitations on investigating an officer, when you can discipline or how you can discipline them, and many disciplinary barriers that have given a runway for officers to commit egregious misconduct, things that are not criminal, but are still misconduct, such as using racial slurs, harassment. We had an officer who fed a homeless man a dog feces sandwich, right, and was able to get his job back because by the time he was disciplined, it was more than 6 months from the date of incident. That little loophole right there, that's chapter 143. It says limitations on civilian oversight and what that looks like. So that was chapter 143. Chapter 174, which is what made it onto the ballot, is collective bargaining for police officers and firefighters, but you can either elect to have that or repeal it for one or the other or both. The reason why we were going after chapter 174 is not that we're against collective bargaining, but one, a police union or police officers association, however you want to refer to it, it does not work like a union. At the point where you are using collective bargaining to shield your officers, your employees from accountability, it's a problem. The moment that you are using collective bargaining rights as a way to oppress rather than as a tool for the worker, there's an issue there. But more so than that, it has a specific line that allows the contract to live above any state or local, municipal, county laws. So what 174 did is it set up this police contract with the San Antonio Police Officers Association to be this all-powerful document that can literally supersede your local laws. So that means whatever kind of accountability or things that we were pushing in state legislation, such as the George Floyd Act, it didn't necessarily have to affect the police contract because they were covered under this umbrella of unaccountability, basically. So we were able to put chapter 174 on the ballot because it only required 20,000 signatures. Chapter 143, we weren't able to get enough signatures for. Unfortunately, because that's close to about 80,000 signatures right now, which is a whole mess. So it's ridiculous. It's based off a certain percentage of the total voters registered in the city, not who voted in the last municipal election. And
how many people actually show up.
Yeah, it's just based on the amount of people registered. And so as San Antonio keeps growing and we keep registering more folks because folks are, focused on voter engagement, that threshold goes up and it doesn't have a cap of 20,000 or 30,000 or whatever, they set it at.
That's crazy.
It's a serious problem because at the point where you need 80,000 signatures, that's more folks than you would need to win the ballot initiative if it ran the same way as the last municipal ballot initiative ran,
Wow.
which is something that needs to be addressed in, in state legislature, and, something that we're kind of looking at, not just in general, just for chapter 143, but really any ballot initiative. You're going to run something that's municipal and you need 80,000 signatures for it. That's ridiculous, whether it's to legalize marijuana or to take on the police contract or whatever it is. It's you're seriously jeopardizing and harming and really slowing down, really blocking our voice, right? Our First Amendment right to petition, because 80,000 signatures is super expensive and it's a lot of work, and you have to collect it within 6 months or they're not valid. All of these little steps. But that's a whole different path, and I don't want to fully digress. So anyways, we were trying to put chapter 143 and 174 up to the ballot to repeal it, because what that would do is it would repeal our police contract, and we would have to choose either like a different state law, like what Dallas has, chapter 147, to create our contract, which is ideal because it doesn't lay out discipline and disciplinary barriers. The contract would not live above state law. And if we were under something like chapter 142 or 147, if there was a contract that both the city and the police union agreed on, but we didn't, we could actually do another ballot initiative petition to vote down the contract, which was a major piece right there. Is if we don't agree to a contract because we're not getting what we want, and city council is not backing us up or following the wishes of the people, we still have another mechanism to vote down the contract and send them back to the negotiation table.
Wow.
Which would have been amazing, and still something that we can do, just saying. But something like that had never been done before. And it was our first run going through it, and we were a tiny group, right? Just like the rest of us. One of our founders, OG, didn't know who her city council person was when she started looking into this. She just saw that San Antonio had one of the highest rehire rates for fired officers in the nation, and she wanted to know why. And the answer is literally the contract has allowed these officers through arbitration to come back time and time again. We have he's retired now, but an officer, Lieutenant Lee Rakin, he was fired and brought back a total of 6 times. On his 7th firing, they decided to settle for him to retire. He, last year in his retirement, I think it was in Tennessee, actually got in a shootout with sheriff's deputies, sending one to the hospital, including himself, after a domestic dispute, and is, now going to be facing charges for that. So, this was already a dangerous man who shouldn't be serving and protecting us, right? Coming back, being fired and being brought back through arbitration against the chief's will time and time and time again, until they agreed that he should just forcibly retire, and then ended up actually shooting another cop.
Wow.
That's what we were fighting here with the contract, is we are tired of this happening. We're tired of 70% of our fired officers coming back after misconduct, of racial slurs, of harassment, of DWIs, of domestic violence, right? These are all things, those are the officers that are serving our streets. And frankly, if you want to change the culture of policing or minimize the role of police, which is something we also want to do, you need to change some of the policies that are protecting them, that allow that culture to happen. So that was the Proposition B ballot initiative. But after the ballot initiative failed by a mere 3,500 votes, which was still major and massive because the police union spent $1 million against us. We also had more voters vote for the ballot initiative than in the mayoral race. We increased Black and Latino voters by the vote by 25% or more, depending on the group. And we saw record-breaking voter turnout for municipal election we've never seen before. And we know the ballot initiative did that. So even though it failed, there was still obviously a clear call and need from the community for police accountability. Clearly, folks turned out for that. It made sense to them. And I recognized, with a few of our board members like Dorothy, that this was a moment and an energy we needed to harness and keep working with. And that's how I started ACT4SA. One, because I want to make sure that we keep base building, that we keep this narrative and this conversation up. We have to keep the pressure on these officers, right? On the San Antonio Police Officers Association, on SAPD, on BCSO, right? Bexar County Sheriffs. Especially if we want to be able to run Chapter 143 again. You don't want to start from zero. You need to keep this pressure up. But there were other things that I wanted to work on related to police accountability that Fix SAPD did not want to do. That's fine. You want to stay focused on the contract and these ballot initiatives, that's great. But I know that there's more we can do to keep winning accountability as we keep going along, and to keep base building and to keep this pressure up so we can be more successful in the next ballot initiative, or so that we can reduce the size and scope of the police or folks that are being incarcerated, right? There's other things that we can also do. And we have the support of the community for that. But if we just drop this now, we will lose them. And that's why I started ACT4SA to focus on that. And that was a ton of information, and I have plenty more to say, but I do want to pause for a second. I know, Jen, you had your hand up, and thanks for being patient and letting me ramble.
Oh, sure. Oh, no, it's all very interesting. I'm just really interested in your perspective about how you engaged voters and turned them out.
Yeah.
Really interested in that.
So I'm trying to think of the best way to answer this. It's very different during a municipal election. You have more conservative or moderate voters than in a presidential. So we had to be very careful about messaging. Right, we had to make it very clear that this wasn't about defund, even if I personally believe in defund or divesting from the police right to invest in communities. That's not what appeals to voters. We also had to be very careful because SAPD, for instance, we did polling. SAPD polls much higher than SAPOA, SAPOA, the police union. So we need to make sure that we're making it very clear that this is about disempowering the police union, which it was, but you have to be very careful with messaging. And I think that one of the things that drew people is, one, we're coming off the uprisings from George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. And so folks were already engaged, but two, we were following some very middle of the line talking points and then making things very digestible. Chapter 143, chapter 174 are pages and pages and pages of documents, but we were able to put it in a few bullet points, and we were able to say, hey, this officer right here, these are the ones we're talking about. And it's really a matter of pulling your hearts and your minds. If we're able to present the data of having one of the highest officer rehire rates in the nation and having to spend this much on arbitration, and this was the settlement agreement for the officer, that was our taxpayer dollars. And we see other cities that run without chapter 174 that still have great pay and benefits, but and the same officers per capita, if people care about that, and things like that. We're able to present the data, but then we're also able to do the stories of, these are the victims, right? This is what's going to pull your heart. These are the victims of police brutality, of harassment, and this is how it's affected them or their family members. And this is the egregious misconduct that, whether it was an officer or not, you couldn't agree with. And so the thing, really, I guess, long story short, is you have to pull your hearts and your minds. You need to have the data to back it up, but if you don't have that emotional piece and that buy-in of why this needs to happen, then they're not going to turn out. And that's what we were able to do. But it's also a lot of work too. We were texting, we were calling, we were phone banking, we were knocking on doors, right? We're on social media. We had to pull out all the bells and whistles and contact people where we could at their homes.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. We had a couple other hands up too.
Yes. I think it was Jane first and then Peter. Oh, Jane, I think you're on mute.
Okay. You also had hearings, like that's when I really got involved, was being able to see James on TV with all those other people, and
Right.
I'm kind of interested in the dynamic between you and James, because James seemed to be out in front, right? He was the one that we heard talking all the time. So that was so I'm happy to meet you, because you were obviously in there doing your stuff. Do you think, okay, this is like a very weird question and you don't have to answer it. Were you treated with respect by the people who in the city and the people in the police department during this whole thing?
The people I worked with, all of our volunteers, any of our employees, those folks, absolutely. And most of the interactions, I would say, with like Danny Diaz, right? President of the Police Officers Association, or whoever, was generally respectful, but we did face intimidation. When we were doing petitioning near the end in December, we actually had to have a security briefing and change some of our tactics, where we were launching our canvases out of different areas, because folks had found out we were launching from the same area, and there were cars there, people recording us. One of our canvassers had their tires slashed, another one had their windows broken out, and so we had to start launching from different areas. Even working at the polling locations, right? If you have one or two little poll workers, right, holding signs trying to talk to people about Prop B, there was 15 cops at every polling location. And even though they weren't in uniform, because you can't be, they made it very clear that they were cops wearing whatever other t-shirts they had, and they were there in masses, and they definitely intimidated some of our poll workers, right, by having too many cops stand next to them or trying to yell over them. And if you're talking about a poll worker, like I'm thinking of Ashley, who's a smaller woman with these big burly men yelling over her that are also officers. And she's somebody who's justice impacted, has been involved in the carceral system. That's intimidation. So in the field, not so respectful, definitely a lot of intimidation, a lot of power dynamics going on. But I would say in terms of what was happening on a higher level, an executive or administrative level, it was much more respectful, even though they were giving this media narrative that was, completely false. They didn't rely on facts. San Antonio Police Officers Association has always relied on scare tactics to enhance their power. In the 1980s, when a city council member was speaking about their high cost for their health insurance, they were sent an Easter basket with a dead rat in it for Easter. Like, it's literally a thing that happened and has been documented. Ron DeLorde wrote in his book, I can't remember the exact quote, but something about, we're gonna, fight to the very end. And at the end of the day, if we have to burn it all down, then that's fine. We'll live among the ashes. And we will, they call voters and whatever they need to with whatever scare tactics of you're going to lose your police and crime's going to go up and all of this XYZ, whether they have facts to back it up or not, because they know it works and they've done it in the past, and he's spoken about it openly, and that's exactly what they continue to do now.
Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on with the current contract and how you're dealing with that?
Yeah, so contract negotiations look like they might be nearing an end. The great thing about Proposition B is even if it didn't pass, it brought up the conversation about police discipline and accountability and these specific loopholes. So several things have been agreed upon, for more accountability. For instance, they've limited, when an officer gets in trouble for misconduct and a complaint's made against them, they're allowed to view the complaint any evidence, video, auditory, any of that, before they're ever interviewed or questioned about it. So the city was fighting to make sure that that wasn't a thing. They've now compromised that instead of 48 hours, they get 24 hours beforehand to review it. Still a problem, but getting better. In terms of the 6-month window, it's now, instead of 6 months from the date of incident, it's 6 months from the date of discovery, which is great, because we do know that, if you're an officer committing misconduct, you're going to try to hide it. And maybe it takes a few months for the chief or whoever it is to find out. So now it's 6 months from the date of discovery. For minor misconduct, it can be up to 2 years ago. For major misconduct, I think they bumped it up to 10. For there to be an internal affairs investigation and the chief to dole out a punishment. There's a few things that they didn't include. One was we wanted to review and revise our civilian review board. That wasn't included in negotiations. We wanted to limit the term limit of the contract. We wanted to limit their evergreen clause. There's a few other things in there that haven't been addressed. But for most of the disciplinary things that were related to Chapter 143, they've revised them to where it's much better. Now, ACT4SA has released a statement and has an email action. I'll find the link for it and drop it. For you to email your city council members saying that they shouldn't sign the contract until we get everything we've asked for. To be very frank with you, I don't know that there's political will on our city council to not sign it, but the fact that it's on the record is very important, because we're, one, saying that we don't think the contract should be signed, and two, setting up some of the priorities and guidelines and things that we would like in next contract negotiations. And maybe they'll listen to us and not rush to sign a contract because half of them are endorsed by the San Antonio Police Officers Association, or they just want to have negotiations over with, or whatever reason. So I'll find the link for that. But the contract is possibly going to be ratified soon. Once the negotiators agree, it goes to the San Antonio Police Officers Association to vote to agree on it, and then it moves to City Council to vote to agree. If one or the other party votes against it, then it goes back to the negotiation table, and new terms and things can be added into a negotiations contingent on they didn't sign it for XYZ reasons, so we need to talk about it. That's never happened in San Antonio, and it's only happened once in Texas that I've heard of. And I think that was in 2018 with Austin. Folks there, they had 7 hours of testimony from community members saying, don't sign the contract because we want to have an independent civilian oversight system. We don't want our civilian review board to be part of the contract, to be under the police association. We want something independent. And Austin City Council voted it down. And until the police union agreed to it, they didn't approve the contract. And that was really cool. And definitely a power that our city council has here, which we're reminding them of. I just don't think we're there yet.
I have more questions, but Peter, why don't you go?
Well, I'm trying to sort through them. How did both city council, and I guess people like Chief McManus, but especially city council, how did they really feel about this business, in the sense that that evergreen clause was just around their neck for generations? I mean,
Yeah.
thanks to Henry Cisneros, so they had to be, in some sense, wishing you would succeed. How do you think that was in their minds?
Very interesting question. With Chief McManus specifically, he had been at odds with SAPOA for years. I mean, they like literally put up billboards saying, fire Chief McManus, we need a new police chief. So it was interesting because he was in a place where I don't think he could, publicly say that he supported this. How do I say this exactly? he was more supportive at the beginning than at the end, because I think, you know, once Danny Diaz became union president, I think they wanted to work out a relationship if they could. And that relationship was contingent on him saying, I support collective bargaining and settling this at the negotiation table. Because his tune changed with us pretty quick when the new head of the police union came in. I also think that he personally supported us repealing Chapter 143 over 174. And I think that's actually the case with other city staff and officials, is they recognize Chapter 143 as being the biggest barrier for what they wanted to change over 174 in the actual collective bargaining contract. And once we were able to put 174, but not 143 up there, so collective bargaining over Officers' Bill of Rights, conversations halted with a lot of city officials that we were having conversations with before. And so we didn't really have any support, especially as they were going into negotiations and needed to remain neutral. We didn't see any support from anybody on city council, city staff, any of that. We did get some support from several candidates who were running, you know, Terry Castillo and Jalen McKee Rodriguez being two of them who are not on city council, but we were pretty much on our own. And as a new organization and group that had no political capital, no background, if we hadn't had joined in coalition with some of the organizations that we had, such as Texas Organizing Project, literally lifesavers. I love TOP. Everybody should support TOP. They do great work, but Black Voters Matter and TOP, Daily Coast actually supported us. I was able to reach out to them, right? Texas Freedom Network, Move Texas. If they hadn't joined in to help us, I don't think we would have gotten as far as we did. I know we wouldn't have, frankly. But that's kind of what you need to take on a police union.
Do you think that Diaz coming in, I mean, like you say, I know that he was vastly more listening, or at least that's how he came across in the press. And do you think that his arrival had something to do with some of the positive movement that you've seen? Is he more reasonable in that sense?
You know,
I mean, just real quickly, I remember when Trump came to town, and some of the cops on the beat suddenly had caps that were MAGA caps on, and that was when McManus said, no, I don't think so. But that was a delightful memory. So sorry.
Yeah, no, you're fine. You know, I think Danny Diaz is better than his predecessor, but I think at the end of the day, he's going to value and protect, right, SAPOA and their interest over the people any day. And I think especially the fact that they put out the narrative they did about, oh, well, officers are going to suddenly retire and we're not going to have enough officers on our force if this contract gets voted down or is removed. And, you know, this is about defunding the police and stuff. I think he really fed into that narrative and helped inflame it and push it out in a way that makes me think he's not necessarily an ally. I mean, he's not. But much better than who was there before him, who was fire and brimstone, you know.
So I also have more questions, but if somebody else wants to jump in, please feel free.
Anybody else? Go ahead, Peter.
Okay. You talked about after Prop B and of course creating ACT4SA and the changes that you've seen that have been positive changes. How lasting do you think your messaging has been? Are you dependent on having current policy failures by police for the message to stick? Or is there a community memory of why they supported the initiatives?
Yeah, there's definitely community memory. Even right after, and still, I have folks asking when we're going to try to run these ballot initiatives again, especially Chapter 143, because we didn't put it on. So there's definitely community memory, but I think one of the things about ACT4SA is we're also educating the community, and that's exactly what happened with Prop B, and that's what we're doing now. Is folks folks don't know about these issues, and once they do, whatever it might be, it makes sense and it resonates, and we receive a lot of support, and they understand why it needs to change. Whether you're talking about mental health crisis response, needing non-police responder teams, right, that sticks with folks. We're looking at reforming via police officers. A lot of folks have ridden the bus and, you know, just didn't understand that they had their own police department with their own like policies and procedures manual and what their jurisdiction was. We're educating folks on that and saying there's XYZ that can be improved. And folks are interested because there's not a single one of us that doesn't interact or hasn't interact with officers or doesn't know somebody in the carceral system who's been arrested or is jailed now. And so everybody has a tie to this work. It's literally just trying to get that information out there of not, hey, this is happening, this is why, but this is also the solution. And if you take XYZ actions with us, we'll lead it. You just have to join us with this and speak to city council or send off this email. We can change this, because we almost did with Prop B. And frankly, we've already had other wins, such as winning a 10-day policy to release body camera footage for our sheriffs in officer involved shootings. That was literally the community. If I didn't have those 5 people go speak with me, especially folks that had lost family members to police violence, we wouldn't have got that. The court wasn't even thinking about a 10-day policy. One of my volunteers brought that up and it stuck. And we had done the research to give them everything they needed.
So are there when I think of defund the police and that whole movement, and I think of the value of alternate interventions, right? Besides the police, which is of course the key for that whole. And you talked about mental health, and that sort of having the appropriate people to answer the appropriate calls. It seems like there are some issues like that should be really solid once they're discussed. What are the ones that you think of in that way as being the ones that they ain't going nowhere? It's not a matter of politics. It's the ones that what are the ones that resonate most in the community that are issues like that?
What issues are resonating most, or like initiatives? Is that really the question?
Yeah.
Okay. Via transit police was huge. You know, a reporter who's actually a student at I think Columbia dropped a story that via transit police, and most of their citations given out are non-bus related. They're not even around a bus. They're not even around a bus station that they can give out traffic citations. Not only were most of them non-bus related, but 90% of them were to people of color, right? Mostly Black and Latino folks. You know, and he's kind of like a whistleblower on the fact that they don't have to identify themselves, and some really bad stories of, for instance, one via officer basically got in a road rage incident, was mad at another driver who he says cut him off, followed him in his via vehicle to his driveway, you know, got out of his car after like blocking him in his driveway and pulled a gun on him. And he had his kids in the car, which never seemed to turn into any sort of discipline. It was just a complaint was made, and via was like, said, cool, we'll talk to the officer, this is proven or whatever, right? There's incidents like that, or a blind man being harassed for smoking and not able to like know who this officer was because they don't have to announce themselves and that it was an officer, being an escalated situation. A lot of folks have ridden the bus or have had some interaction with VIA, so that's something that we're taking very seriously and that has resonated. The mental health crisis response, especially after the deaths of Damian Daniels, John Benyamontes, right? We've lost 3 men in a year span between Bexar County Sheriffs and SAPD on mental health crisis calls. That's something that's really resonated with folks. The city has set up co-responder teams that still have sheriffs, but also have a psychologist now, peer specialist, much better, but folks still are asking for a number to call. for a crisis or a welfare check that doesn't have police there, because for a number of reasons, right? We know police escalate situations. Maybe this person has a warrant out. Maybe they're worried about, ICE getting involved, right? Depending on their status. Folks are still looking for a non-police response, and that's really resonated with them. The contract negotiations have also gotten a response, but I think that's mostly because of Prop B campaign. Folks are now aware that we have a contract that allows all these officers to come back through arbitration and whatever loophole. But two, we know that our contract is literally being used as a rubric around the country. And that knowledge alone of, if we can change it here, we can do it anywhere, I think has a lot of folks focused on that too. Which is the same for whatever we're doing in Texas. If you can do it in Texas, you can do it
Absolutely.
anywhere.
That's why I was laughing.
Like climate justice, like in advocacy in Texas, if they can get a win there, we can do it anywhere.
Well, I sure appreciate the hell out of what you're doing, and it's great. I'm really glad to be able to hear where you are now. I think that's really exciting stuff. So, Jane, did you want to go?
Yeah, okay. Okay, so something happens, okay? There's an incident. How do you find out about it? Is it just through, do you, and if when you find out about an incident that deserves to be attended to, what do you do? What's your...
Yeah, there's a couple of ways. Media, honestly, I have relationships with several reporters around here, and they've been really helpful on like giving information about incidents before they might even be public knowledge. But it's either through media, through any allies that we have in city or county government, or sometimes literally from the community, right? That reporter that did the article on Via Transit Police emailed me. I had another woman who had a bad interaction with campus police at UTSA that is interested in doing some organizing on campus. So, they contact me. The next step is to do some research into whatever the incident is, or maybe if there's a law such as Chapter 143 or 174 into what that is, figure out what the possible solution is, and then creating those talking points and activating basically volunteers to do XYZ for activism. So it's like you find out about the problem, you find out what's happening or why it happened, a solution, and then present that solution to folks and say, hey, I need you. This is our solution. These are our talking points. This is what we can do to change this. I need to have 10 people go with me to city council. Can you be one of those people? And that's kind of how it generally works.
Do you know Rick Casey?
I don't.
He's you know him, Jen? Yeah, you're on mute, but yeah. So he used to be based in Houston, but he moved back to San Antonio when his daughters graduated from high school in Houston. I went to high school with them, so I'm friends with his daughters. He's a journalist, and he does stuff now for is it the Rivered?
Oh, the essay
report. Yeah.
The essay report, yeah. So he used to be a columnist. He had like a weekly column in the newspaper and stuff, but yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I'll drop my email in here. But pass it on. Like if he's ever interested in a story, or I'll give you guys my phone number. There's only a few of us in here.
Do you know Chris? Do you know Chris Tomlinson, who works at the Houston Chronicle? He's sort of a muckraker, and Rick Casey he's an old school muckraker. He's very, very good.
Yeah, I don't, but I honestly need to expand. Like I'm always looking to expand our media contact list. One, like for a number of reasons. One, and that's how I find out about things. Two, that's also how I'm able to let folks know about our organization and what we're working on. So it's like a mutually beneficial thing as well. So always looking to expand and let folks know about the work that we're doing. Let's see, what else? Oh, I think another part to your question, Jane, is sometimes it's like literally just doing the grunt work. Right now, I'm literally comparing the pages and pages and pages of VIA's transit police manual to SAPDs and matching sections and pulling things that, hey, this is an SAPD manual, not that it's should be said that it's the gold standard, but frankly, it has a lot more things in there than either our sheriff's or VIA transit police is, and putting that in as like, this is a suggestion. And actually, this is a better suggestion than what's in SAPD's manual. And working to create like those recommendations to take to their board of trustees to then take back to their chief of police and their executives and see if we can get that implemented. And it's literally hours of going through hundreds of pages on top of waiting for more information to come through a FOIA request, because the manual that I got from the VIA Transit Police was sent to me from that reporter, and they blacked out several things in that manual. So I'm having to try to FOIA request that information. Or it could be something simple of like, what SAPD has their manual in its entirety on its website for transparency. Why isn't VIA Transit Police doing that? Why hasn't the Bexar County Sheriff's Office done that? Cool, I'm gonna set like, one of the things we're looking at is we can't bust out too many actions at once. One's because of capacity, and two, we don't want to overload folks, but getting online petition signatures of post your manuals online, right? Getting enough signatures and then taking it to whoever corresponding person, county commissioners, city council, your VIA executives, your board of trustees. I have 800 signatures. This is what the folks are asking for. That's a lot. Do something about it. It's little actions like that. And it's really helpful, especially as you guys are growing and scaling, to do things, to have actions like that that are not only engaging folks and letting them know you're there and what work you're working on, but you're collecting information too, so you can contact them again. Which is much easier. Well, not much easier, but I think has a higher return rate than just, hey, this is, this is what we do, but we are not, if you're able to show like your effectiveness and your action and that you're doing X, Y, Z, like I'm not just talk, but I'm also doing these actions, I think it'll help to get people to give you their information. Because I know you guys are looking to grow and expand as well. And it might be a good way to have something at, I think the events in April or May, not just have a sign-up sheet, but maybe some type of call to action, even if it's a QR code to scan of like, maybe something that's, Indivisible, Texas, like general online petition or something, but scan this and sign it. And not only am I getting your information because you had to fill out this form, but you took an action and now you're invested in our group and you know what we do. It's great for recruitment. And that's half the reason. It's funny, but I'm learning about all of this. It's not just the advocacy of like, I need to do this and I want to do this and this is effective, but I also have to think of how to scale and base build. And that's a way to do it.
Jan, do you want to ask something?
Yes, I was just wanted to ask how you are funded. Where does your support come from?
Both from individual donors, but also grants. I'm constantly on the lookout for grant applications. There are folks that specifically fund police accountability, police reform, criminal justice reform, and then some general grassroots advocacy. So most of it's grants, but we have had like a steadier base of donations through Act Blue now that we've had more media hits and such. But yeah, your general nonprofit kind of funding.
So you're on Act Blue?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. I actually have a couple of links that I should probably drop in here.
That's great.
Do you have anything else you wanted to ask, Jan?
No, I just a comment really. I'm so impressed with your understanding of how to make a real difference in the world, like taking ideas and making them real. And I'm just very impressed with that. So congratulations on that. I think your first petition and proposition drive reflects, I think, a really good understanding of that. So
Thank you. It's a lot of work. I mean, it's definitely community, it takes a lot of work, but it's even all the research and all the unsexy stuff. We started in June of 2020 on Prop B stuff, like, and we didn't even start petitioning until basically October. It was 4 months of research and preparation just to do the petitioning, and then a whole ballot initiative after that. And that's how some of this goes. You know, I've been aware of these issues with the via transit police since December, and it's almost March, and we're finally getting to a point to take some action. But that's also a capacity thing. Like, frankly, I need more folks to be able to volunteer or help with these things, because I've been executive director and organizer. I'm hiring on my first person. I just gave them an offer Friday.
Yay!
congratulations.
I'm so excited. But you know, just capacity, like I probably could have done something sooner with this VIA campaign, but it's working on site release and mental health crisis response and fundraising and via transit police and whatever other things come up.
We wouldn't know anything about that.
Yeah, right. It's just life. There's so much going on. And every once in a while I gotta babysit my nephews in between that, like a lot. And remember to do my laundry, you know?
Well, if your nephews keep you in San Antonio, I'm pro nephews.
They definitely do.
Well, we've been at this a while. It's maybe time for us to think about wrapping this up. But I think what I would like to, I still have lots of things that we want to talk to you about.
Yeah.
Related to partnerships. For example, you know, you mentioned TOP and BVM and Daily Coast and Move Texas, that they joined with you in order to accomplish some stuff. And I wondered if you meet with them at all, and you know, that was one question, and what your relationships are like now with those folks, and opportunities for us to help. And I don't know if there's any kind of an event or anything that you think, if we could get enough groups involved, if there's something that comes up that really needs some attention to the public, that we'd be interested in helping you with something like that. So I thought maybe we could meet again and explore some opportunities for us. We didn't, you know, we're really kind of you know, we're trying to figure this out. Let's put it this way.
Yeah.
You know, so, but we have passion, we're willing to help, and we're looking for opportunities to be able to help people and to have more of a community connection. You know, I was curious about language. Do you have Spanish speakers that were able to get into the crowd and talk to folks? Because a couple of us do speak Spanish, but we haven't spoken in a while. So
yeah. So the organizer that I just hired on is bilingual in both English and Spanish, which will help. You know, during Fix SAPD's campaign and my time there, we did try to translate as much as we could, and like our folks that were in the field, you know, we definitely had bilingual folks. But yeah, for ACT4SA and what we're doing now, Deanna is her name. She's incredible organizer. She organized for Beto. She organized in Australia randomly. She's worked on national and local stuff, is bilingual. She's from Mexico. And so that's going to help a lot, I think, with recruitment and accessibility and being able to speak in different areas into different groups, because my Spanish is very little.
well,
and then in terms, I'm so sorry.
no, that's okay.
In terms of partnerships, Black Voters Matter, right? BVM, we do a monthly meeting with all their partners, but I can do regular check-ins as well. They just hired on I think her official title is a Texas Deputy Director for the state or something. But her name's Camilla Factory, and she started Black
Oh, we
Freedom
know her.
Matter.
We know her.
Yeah, she's now working for Black Voters Matter
Right.
as
But
well
she's in
now.
that Atlanta. She's not here in San Antonio, right?
She is. She lives
Oh,
here. in
she
San
is? I
Antonio.
didn't know
Yeah.
that. Cool.
Yeah.
And Deanna also? She's
Deanna's in, she was in Dallas. I think she just moved to Houston.
oh,
So
okay.
Deanna's out of town, but Camilla, they just hired on a few weeks ago. And she's here
Oh,
in San Antonio.
fantastic. Okay. That's good to know. Well, we'd like to maybe try to have a continued conversation
Yeah.
in not too distant future. So maybe we can just find a time to talk again and have more questions about how we can join with whatever efforts you think are important to have our support.
Just shoot me an email and we'll figure out time on our schedule to meet up. I can always use help with volunteers. I've put my email in here. I put the ACT for SATX. That's us on any social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Follow us. Any of our actions, whether they're online petitions or sending an email or anything like that, are going to be on both our website, but also all our social media. And literally, like, when we won our body camera footage policy, that was 5 of us at County Commissioner's Court. And that's all it takes, just to have an extra person to send that email or to be on this Zoom call or to speak at City Council can make a difference. And that's the biggest way you can help out. And just letting, folks know if they're into police reform and police accountability and Black Lives Matter initiatives around San Antonio and Bexar County. We are the only grassroots organization focused on that here, specifically with that focus.
I just wanted you to know that I'm more of a Sandra Bland, type.
Yeah.
Surrounded by the police, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
I probably end up dead because there is no way that I would be intimidated by somebody who's supposed to protect and serve me, and I would let them know. Are you doing your job, or are you trying to intimidate me into believing you're doing your job? That would be my question. And I bet you he'd back up off of me, because I would back him up. I don't know why. It's just that I can't tolerate bullies.
Right.
I taught my granddaughter not to be bullied, because she's half white and half black. And so the kids in school were giving her a very rough time about being biracial. And I told her, don't you be bullied. You love both of your parents, don't you?
Right.
And she said, yeah. I said, so that's all that the bottom line is. That's all that matters, is that both of your parents are in fact your parents. And I don't see you as biracial. I see you as my granddaughter. And my granddaughter don't get intimidated.
Yeah. I mean, I wish I could say I was always 100% not intimidated, but it's definitely, I try not to be. And I feel the same pain. It's an interesting conversation, and one I've been having more actually in this space and the work I do of what it is to be biracial, because growing up, I was too Black to be white, right? And hang out with these folks, but I was too white to be Black. And I think a lot of us folks go through that. And I've actually felt that working in this progressive space. Been told I wasn't Black enough to be on the mic, or vice versa, kind of stuff.
Oh.
So,
well,
sweetheart, talk about.
Sweetheart, blackness is in the heart, baby. And my granddaughter is Black all the way in the heart. And we had the biggest fight here in the hospital when she was born, because they wanted to put Black on her birth certificate because her mother was Black. And I told him, I said, wait a minute, hold on a second here. Why can't you just put biracial? And they said, we can't. We have to put Black on her birth certificate. And I thought, man, that's something I'm gonna have to do something about. Then I found out that the Constitution says that if you have one drop of Black blood in you, you are Black.
Really? I mean, I'm not surprised. It makes sense.
Yes. And so I decided that I was going to have no foolishness such as that. So I began to bombard the hospital with all kinds of mail. What about all the other children? They have Black and have Mexican. Well, what are you going to say? They have white and have Indian. Well, what are you going to say? Are they just Indian? What?
Right.
So they started sending my mail back to me.
Of course.
It was like return to sender,
Well, that's what has impressed me. I mean, Shirley has this fire in the belly and specific things she wants to fix, and you have the experience and the perspective to be able to see, well, what can we do about it? Like, how do we turn that into something that we can change? And so knowing both of you, I think, enriches my circle so incredibly that I'm just glad you're both here.
Peter, anything else you want to say?
I just wanted to say, Ananda, if there's the opportunity for some group call, in other words, if you're on a Zoom call where it's multiple organizations and they're sort of talking over strategies or current events or whatever that, and you think maybe we would be able to join that call and also understand, again, like how we can share work. It's a tough business because everybody's always, plenty busy. It's not as though we have spare time. What is that? Spare time, an oxymoron, right? I mean,
Right.
But the idea of when we can shoulder a load together, that's what the point is. Really, that's a lot of why we're excited to reach out to you now.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to drop a link. This is SA Stands Coalition.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
They're constantly looking to expand their coalition, and they focus on fighting mass incarceration and deportation. And you can join as either an organization or individuals. They worked on getting library cards, like an enhanced library card, accepted as a form of ID by police, right? Because especially folks with a different status might not have the identification they need. They're working on Cite and Release. The reason that Cite and Release is a program in Bexar County is because of them. And now we're working to codify it through city council, but they're the ones that worked with the DA and the police chief to make that a thing. And they're working on an immigrant legal defense fund as well, and a few other initiatives. So that'd be a great place to start as well. I mean, I can certainly run an introductory email for you guys as well, but if you just want to check out the website to learn a little bit more about them,
okay.
I mean, it's a great coalition. I mean, there's ACT4SA is a part of it, HOP's a part of it, Immigrant Legal Resource Center, RAICES, a few individuals. It's a coalition of a ton of organizations, and I think is a great place to do some work and meet folks.
Great. Thank you so much.
I've been a part of the prison ministry since I did 40 days in the Guadalupe County Jail for a crime I didn't commit. And I've been pissed off ever since. But I got even more pissed off when they made me do my community service at the Camille County Courthouse. And every time I went to go do my community service, I had to go up in the elevator with police and come down in the elevator with police. Okay. So needless to say, when I was driving around New Braunfels and the police got behind me, I was on my P's and Q's. I was like, okay, what now? What they gonna do now? But eventually that's why I refuse to be intimidated. And I was just like, I did my time for something I didn't do. Okay. So I guess I should do time for something I do. So
exactly.
And even this stuff out, But that was basically it.
Hey, Shirley, I'm dropping this website in here for Freed Texas. It's an organization started by this woman, Leonora Walker, who's here in San Antonio, but they want to expand statewide, and I think New Braunfels will work. But it's literally education and resources, including getting folks registered to vote and civics courses for folks that are were formerly incarcerated and incarcerated folks to help them to be able to transition, right? And if that's something that like you're really interested in or even want to implement there in like New Braunfels, Leonora, she's a strong Black woman. She's been incarcerated. This is like her story and what they work on, because she knows like when she got out of jail, she didn't have anything. She didn't know about voting. She didn't know about the power of a vote. She didn't have resources on how to transition to get a job and things like that. And so she's working to do the same for folks that have been incarcerated. And she was just recently talking about, I want to do more outside of Bexar County. And so maybe y'all can get together to work on that, right? Just help our folks out.
Okay.
Well,
You
I
know,
can feel we're pretty close to closing down here.
Mhm.
I just wanted to do a real quick screen share. This is today's paper this afternoon. The mail ballot issues with the legislature that they've imposed are biting them in the ass. This is just in today's paper, just online too. It's too recent. But the part of the bottom line is it seems to be at the particular moment, the drop off is most dramatic among Republicans. I mean, you know, that's not, if somebody has to be influenced more, I'm glad it's not us. What can I say? But that's a common cause, the idea of voting, equitable voting,
Yes.
everybody votes. That's at the core of, I know what connects us. So I just wanted to kind of throw that in.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so that serves them right.
Right.
Yeah.
I
The
hate to
same
say
thing
it.
with like Biden was like,
Yeah.
Trump said, you know, don't trust mail-in ballots. And then like, that's one of the ways Biden won. It was like, you told your people not to do mail-in ballots, you idiot. Like, what did
And
you
that's what this article talks about too. Anyway.
Can you put a link of that article in the
Yeah, I can
chat?
do that. I can
And
do
then
that.
we'll-
We had a cold spell here, you know what I'm saying? So people were trying to mail it in because they didn't want to be out there in that cold.
Yeah.
So that just really wiped out part of the Republicans, you know what I'm saying? Because they think they deserve, heat wherever, But I'm good with it.
So here's the link, and it's the subscription only. It's not online in text. The text access usually comes out in the printed edition tomorrow. I'm anticipating it.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, 40% is massive. I know some groups I think were looking to do a lawsuit, is what I had heard. Literally because of this, because a lot of folks were having trouble with their mail-in ballots and voting.
Yep.
Wow.
Makes me see red, really just
Oh,
infuriating.
man. Don't get me started.
And I think a lot of people like didn't qualify this time around, right? Like they couldn't get them.
Yeah, it was like some weird rule of like when you applied, if for instance, I used my driver's license when I applied, but then try to use like my social security number or something when I sent in my mail-in ballot, because it's two different IDs, they would throw out your ballot, which is stupid. Like you can obviously verify that I'm the same person through either one.
Yeah. I
And they
had
can't-
my husband and I took our ballots, ballot applications to their elections. Okay, so we turned in our applications. My husband's was fine. I failed. My application failed because I didn't have my driver's license on my voting record. Okay.
Oh my God.
Okay, so I had to, so fortunately I went, because I was there, I sat down in a computer, I changed my voter registration to include everything, my social security number, my driver's license. And then with her help, the lady at the desk there, that went through very quickly. And then I redid my application to have both my Texas driver's license and my the last four of my social, and then it went through after that. So that's what was happening to all those people, was that there was something that was missing from, and it's not anybody's fault. Okay. So, that's what,
legislature's fault. But
yeah. Well, that's what people got burned with mostly. is that kind of shit. So
And
anyway.
then it was so cold this week and the lines were really long because the ballot was so freaking long.
Oh God.
So I was standing at the Leon Valley Conference Center. Usually there's nobody there, and we were there for like 45 minutes in line. Luckily the waiting is inside though at the Leon Valley, but like at Cody Library, it's outside. And so the waiting line is outside. And can you imagine being an elderly person that like couldn't get their mail-in ballot verified, and then you have to sit out there for 45 minutes in the cold?
Right. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous.
All right. Well, we'll give you a call. We'll send you an email soon, and we'll figure out how we can get into a groove here.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
We appreciate you a lot.
Thank you, Nanda. Thank you.
Yes, I appreciate you all too. Be safe out there.
All right. Take care, everybody.
All right. Bye.